Welcome in. I'm Kimberly. This is Pretty Over 50, where we talk everything makeup, skincare, and style for the over 50 woman. And today we're talking about good health too, which I'm so excited about. I want to welcome in my new friend, Cindy Fallon. She is here from Seraphic. And Seraphic is the company that makes the Ion Biome, which you guys know I am crazy about. I absolutely love this product. I started on this product a little bit ago. I'll tell that story in a minute, and it had made dramatic changes in my life. One of the things I want to say about this is I first knew it as Restore. You can see I still have one of the tiny little bottles that's Restore. I still think of it as Restore, but it's actually Ion Gut Support. And of all the products that I have talked about on my channel, I'm not kidding you guys one little bit. This is the one that I get the most comments on, absolutely hands down. As a matter of fact, I want to read you a comment that I just got. I didn't go out and solicit it. This just came in this week and it's so powerful. I want to share it with you. Okay, so this woman, this is from Trish F. And this just came in like 2 days ago. And she says, "Hi, I got on Restore, now Ion, 5 weeks ago. I use more than they recommend. For the first few days, it did what you said it would, move things along quickly, and I stayed with it every day in a smoothie type drink. And I'm here today to tell you that my IBS has completely calmed down. First time in my life, I have had a predictable gut and did not have to think about what I did yesterday and would I be able to go out for the day and not have to worry about a problem. I never experienced 5 days, let alone 5 weeks, without some event that would sideline me. I thank you from my heart, from the bottom of my heart, for being so open and honest with us about things that you love. Much respect." So that was just such a thrill for me to get because my results were very dramatic as well. And Cindy doesn't know this, and I'll tell the story on how I first got started on Restore. I was living in Montana at the time, and I was what I call fluffy. I was a little bit fluffy. And I was at a party and I met a nutritionist, and she was kind of a big deal in the area. She had written some books. She was on the speaking circuit. And so I do what you do when you meet somebody that's got knowledge is I kind of saddled up to her and I said, I'm a little bit fluffy. I don't know what to do to lose weight. And she goes, "You're not fluffy. You have leaky gut syndrome." And I just like, oh no. First of all, I hate the words leaky gut. And secondly, I did not want to have a syndrome. So I said, okay, so I'm not fluffy. I've got leaky gut. That sounds horrible. I said, what should I do? And she said, eat organic and take Restore. This used to be called Restore. And I said, okay. And so that's what I did. I started eating organic. I started taking Restore, ordered it, did the whole thing. I'll tell you what, 5, 6 weeks later, I looked like a different person. As a matter of fact, what I did is I took a photo of myself before I started, and I have a photo 5 weeks into it on how I looked. And she used those pictures she was a college professor too, in her lectures to show the difference. And what it was is that I was so puffy and swollen, and I had bags under my eyes and a big pooch around my stomach. It was a wreck. So long story short, I kept taking Restore, and then the whole health kerfluffle started. And I ran out and I was kind of like at home. Nobody was feeling great or excited. And I didn't reorder my Restore. And it was about 3 weeks later, I looked in the mirror and I thought, oh my gosh. So I ordered it again, and I have never stopped taking it since. It's been such a gift to my health and clearly the health of other people. But here's why Cindy is here with us today, because I don't know why it works. I have no clue. I don't know anything about it. I just know about Dr. Zach Bush, who is the creator of this product. If you're not familiar with Zach Bush, you're going to want to be. He is an incredible thought leader. He is such a powerful speaker. He is a medical doctor that got involved in the soil because he saw that most of the issues that came into his practice had to do with poor diet and poor health as a result of the diet that we have in the US right now. And I'm sure Cindy can expand on that. If you haven't watched one of Dr. Bush's YouTube videos, you need to run and watch something. You can just go into the search bar in YouTube, type in Zach Bush, Z-A-C-H Bush. I'll have his name listed down below and listen to him. He is a brilliant thought leader. I wish every politician in this country knew what he knows and would share what he shares. So wonderful opportunity for us to talk with Cindy Fallon today, who's with Seraphic. And let me see if I can get your title correct. You're Vice President of Science and New Product Development. I want to welcome you in, Cindy.
Oh, thank you. What a wonderful story, Kimberly. That's amazing. I love to hear that. Fabulous.
Yeah. So can you share a little bit, when we first touched base on a Zoom call a couple of weeks ago, she and I just hit it off right away. I was so excited to meet her. You told me a little bit about your story, but can you share with us what your background is? Clearly, if you're Vice President of Science and New Product Development, you have a little bit of background in education. So share with us
Sure.
your journey and how you got involved with Seraphic.
Yeah, I'd love to. And thank you so much for having me, Kimberly. This is so exciting. And I knew that I wanted you in my circle, and I appreciate you giving me the time today. So yeah, I'm an organic chemist, and I guess a health enthusiast who, as I'm about to enter my 60s, I'm a bit on a redemptive path. And that path was presented to me as a result of becoming quite ill and managing that illness for over 25 years, but truly not seeing the forest for the trees. And I think it's almost embarrassing how obtuse I was to my own contribution to my health demise. Anyway, I was always very active, athletic, all sorts of sports, felt super energetic through undergraduate and graduate studies, playing intramural sports, studying all that. And I began my career after my degree at a plant site, very tiny town, Southeast Texas, at age 25-ish. And it was incredibly stressful, personally and professionally, and I'll kind of leave it at that. But I became quite ill as a result, to the point where I lost the mobility of my upper body. I had severe pain just to be touched and on the inside, insomnia to the point where I ended up taking a leave from work for about 6 months. And long story short, 17 doctors later, was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I was put on Paxil, an antidepressant, which I think that's still an antidepressant available today. It made me feel just miserable, but I could get some sleep. And I was told this is going to be a lifetime struggle. And in the defense of the doctors at that time, they didn't really know much about fibromyalgia. It was very a new condition. But as a chemist, I did my own research. So I dug in, started going through the papers, and there was a correlation between fibromyalgia and serotonin deficiency. And I knew that serotonin, you could increase serotonin with exercise. So in spite of the pain, the inclination was not to move. And anybody that has fibromyalgia can associate with that. You feel pain as you move. But I was very familiar with working through pain from athletics. So I was able to kind of use that mentality, set up this kind of rigorous exercise routine. And I started on a stationary bike, and I just bike and bike and bike and bike. And I started getting a little more movement. And then thanks to an angel, now friend, who helped me turn that intensity on that bike and got me outside running, I started running marathons and managing the pain like really well. And so I was off the antidepressant. Now I was a slave to it. Like if I missed a day of exercise, I couldn't sleep. I remember if I couldn't run, I would jump rope in the garage, baby monitor in the background, just praying that I could get that hour in. So it was this immediate feedback loop that kept me running, between 50 to 52 miles a week, doing weights. And I was able to manage that pain, which was great. But it was always lurking, right? And then unfortunately, when I hit 50, which was 9 years ago now, it wasn't enough. My routine didn't change, but I had a significant relapse. So the pain came back, the insomnia, I got eczema all up and down my arms. let's see, I developed hypothyroidism. So my TSH went up to 46. It's supposed to be under 5. An extreme allergy to dust mites. So my eyes just swelled up. I was washing the sheets every day, taking sheets with me to hotels. Like I could be the hotel reviewer for the dirtiest hotel because I could tell you just how bad the dust was in any hotel. So in a fit of depression, actually, desperation to regain control, I just was throwing pharmaceuticals at it, right? I was trying every painkiller, fibromyalgia medication, sleep aid, over-the-counter prescription, using creams for the eczema, levothyroxine for the hypothyroidism. And that was my life from 50 to 54. And I should say at that time, I was the global technology manager for a very large specialty chemicals business, one of the largest players in the chemical industry. And ironically, I was the global technology manager for specialty chemicals, clean and disinfect. So I was really good at killing things. I was all about disinfectants, sterilants, antiseptics. So I knew a lot about killing bugs. I was part of this huge downsizing effort. So after 26 years with the company, I left and was hired back as a consultant for, ironically, the nutrition and health business, which is kind of laughable at this point when I look at the whole story here. But it was a huge blessing because Kimberly, this is where I learned all about probiotics. And it's where I learned about the microbiome and how, this irony of I was killing everything. And then I learned about this microbiome. I'm thinking, well, that's just, my career has been based on killing things that are in my body. So I learned all about how important gut health was. And in that journey of learning, I came across, just like you, I came across Restore, and which is now Ion Gut Support. And it was intriguing to me because it was the exact opposite of all these drugs I had tried. It wasn't claiming to treat anything, just to support the body so the body could heal itself. And I had been throwing treatments, at all of these symptoms. And this was going to root cause. So I was at the point of, I have nothing to lose. I didn't expect it to work because I thought it was going to be a snake oil kind of thing, but I would try anything. And I have to say, it was life changing in every sense of the word. From a health perspective, from a journey perspective, from a life perspective, it was life changing. Within a few days of taking it, I guess the best way I can describe it is it took the edge off the pain, right? And I got a little more sleep. And within a week, more sleep and a little less pain. And then within months, I had less eczema. So I was starting to see a visual effect. And within a year, my TSH was down to 5, from 46 down to 5, and I was off the levothyroxine. I could go to hotel rooms without taking my own sheets. Like there were all these little things and all of a sudden, I wasn't on any of these prescriptions. And I gathered up all the pills into bags. I had 2 really big bags just to remind myself of from where I came. And I held on to them. Because we just moved, I decided it's time to throw them out. I don't need that reminder anymore. But it was, in a nutshell, I think Ion showed me that what I put in my body matters in a profound way. And I had been destroying my gut. And this lack of gut health, and we'll get into this when we talk about how it works, but this lack of gut health led to all those autoimmune disorders, including the fibromyalgia, including the hypothyroidism, the eczema, the allergies. And I think I almost forgot, like the most ironic part of this whole journey, I suppose, is the number one toxin that is on the food that contributed to the intestinal permeability or the leaky gut that led to my autoimmune disorder. The number one toxin that had been, that led to my health crisis is glyphosate. And the company I was working for 26 years sold huge volumes of that very chemical that sucked the life out of me. And that was what really prompted me to shift from kind of easing into retirement, and picking up the golf clubs to starting a new career and changing my trajectory to one of planetary health and human health. That was probably too long-winded, but that's
Oh,
the journey.
I got goosebumps. It kind of made me cry a little bit when how was it for you to realize that it sounds like pretty much almost your entire adult life, you were really struggling with some fairly major health issues. How did you work through the personal issue of understanding that the company you were working for was selling the product that was making you sick and probably a lot of other people sick as well? How did you work through that on a personal level?
I think I'm still working through it, um, because I want to have grace for everyone that is working there, right? Because these
Mhm.
are these are good people, um,
Yeah.
but I also want people to I want honesty in the data and in the conversation. So I think I'm
Mhm.
still working through that, honestly, Kimberly. Um,
Mhm.
the the part where I have to have grace for myself, and that's not easy, is there are points in my career where we looked at glyphosate as an active, to potentially bring into other areas in the company. And at that time, looking at the data, I should have said, what I did say was, thank goodness, no, we don't want that in this part of the business. So I did that much, but I didn't say, why are we selling it at all? Right. I didn't have the wherewithal, whatever it takes to go to question,
Mhm.
leadership.
Yeah.
So I think I've got a journey ahead of me still, working my way through that, because it does feel like, wow, 26 years I invested. And I guess the best that I can do with it is what I'm trying to do is to put it and pour it into Seraphic, pour it into new product development, pour it into a, a, a healthier vision, right? And education. What I immediately did, my sons were watching this. My son was in high school at that time. They were studying industrialized farming in the classroom. So he said, Mom, you need to come talk about this. So I did. I put together the educational content, went into his classroom, and they ate it up. Kimberly, they were like, we need to, nobody's telling us this. They're hearing GMOs feed the world. So it was really important, and they loved it. And I said, okay, this is what I'm going to be about, educating at the high school level. And what happened was my husband kind of said, you need to go meet Zach Bush and you need to meet the people at Seraphic. And I was like, I just want to do my education thing. But he took me down there. I met them because I wanted to check and make sure I'm an organic chemist, not a medical doctor. I wanted to make sure I was representing it well. And immediately on meeting this group of people, I knew I could be part of a community that can make greater change than an individual. And I think that they said, wow, we might be able to use her skill set. So it was kind of a win-win for both.
Oh, I'm
So
so grateful you shared that story because I was going to say, how did you get connected to Seraphic? But it was through your husband. Did he
yeah,
know Dr. Bush?
no, he knew because of Restore and Ion and taking the product and the transformation in me. And I did the deep dive on watching everything, reading everything, looking at the studies, the glyphosate studies. He was following this carefully. And in fact, he had his own health journey with Ion, Restore at that time, Ion. So he had acid reflux, which is completely gone. And that for him, his journey was actually shorter. Like it was an immediate response for him, benefit. So he was on board immediately. So yeah, we both just were on a steep learning curve, and he knew you need to meet this group of people. And so I'm very grateful to him for
That is great.
for
Yeah,
that.
I want to share my story with the viewers. I shared it a little bit with you before we hopped on. We get there when we get there. And we only know what we know at any given time. And I shared with Cindy a little bit earlier that before I lived where I live now, a while back when the kids were still young, I had a big piece of property and a huge garden and chickens and the whole deal. And I grew all our food or a lot of our food. And I was feeling like little Miss, organic girl and, taking care of my family and being healthy, all while I was spraying Roundup in my vegetable garden, not connecting the dots at all. And I look back and I think, what was I thinking to be spraying that chemical next to my tomato plants, my cucumber plants, and my zucchini and my melons, all produce that will suck up those toxins and deliver them right to your table. And the bottom line is that I didn't even put it together. I put it together now, and the gift is that we can now share this down the line to people that are younger than us and the next generation to say, that's what we knew at the time. We know better now. So, we get there when we get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
No, I think you're right. And that's where I try to just have patience with myself and not beat myself up so much,
Yeah, yeah,
just look
yeah,
forward.
yeah, to beautiful changes. I want to jump into the reason this works. I actually did a whole video, gosh, Cindy, it was probably close to 2 years ago, about under eye bags. And I said, don't do makeup, take this because you're retaining water, you're all
Yeah,
puffy. So what is the microbiome and what is leaky gut and how does this all work? Tell us from a
sure.
science perspective, but dumb it down for us because we're not scientists.
Okay. So the microbiome is literally just a collection of microbes, bacteria, fungi, parasites that live on and in our bodies. They're everywhere: our eyelids, our mouth, our nose, our gut, our skin. We are about 30 trillion human cells, about 39 trillion microbial cells, the average person. By that estimation, you're 43% human cellularly. And I've heard much lower estimates, like 10% human if you consider parasites and fungi. So it doesn't really matter what the number is. You are inhabited by a ton of microbes. And genetically, all of those different species have their own unique genes. So while you have 20,000 human genes, you probably have 2 million microbial genes. And while that sounds kind of creepy crawly, I know it did the first time I kind of internalized that. The gift here is that we can change our microbiome and hence our genetic makeup. We are 1% genetically human, 99% genetically microbe. And that microbial pool has a really profound effect on our health. So we have a tremendous influence on our genetic makeup, which I think is freeing. But the microbiome digests our food, it regulates immune function, it produces essential vitamins, vitamin K, the B vitamins, B12, thiamine, riboflavin, and neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, melatonin. So in essence, most of your well-being rides on the back of a really well-functioning microbiome. A dysfunctional, unbalanced microbiome, which is called gut dysbiosis, leads to inflammation and disease. So microbiome is super important. How does that connect to leaky gut? For the microbiome to thrive, it needs a healthy space to live. And that's the gut lining. The gut lining is foundational. It's the largest barrier system between you and the outside world. We tend to think of our gut, and I know you don't like that word. We tend to think of our gut as our inside, but it's not. It's actually the place where you come into contact with the outside world in the most intimate way. It's a hole running through our body, right? It is in contact with the outside world. If you were to spread it out, it's 2 tennis courts in surface area, but it's only 1 cell thick, like half the width of a human hair. So really thin, just little tiny cells. And all those cells are held together with seals they're proteins called tight junctions. So you've got this very thin barrier between you and the outside world, stitched together with these tight junctions. And it's coated in what can best be described as kind of a mucosal terrain. That's where your gut microbiome lives. So these microbes are like guardians of the gut, and they live on this mucosal terrain from your nose all the way through to the rectum, all the way through the gut. So you're bombarding yourself through that hole every day by what you consume. And so I know, and I saw a peek in your refrigerator, so I know you're really healthy. That was a great video.
Oh, trust me, girl, this is new. I used to be,
Oh, is that
candy
right?
and just, so.
Well, good on you, because I was impressed. So we'll say this is one of your current lunches. So you have a kale salad. That kale, you eat that, you start digesting it in your mouth. It goes down. The nutrients in the kale are absorbed through the cells, not between them, but through the cells. It's this intelligent absorption. The fiber keeps going, and that fiber feeds the microbiome. So that's why fiber is so important. It's not important for you. It feeds the microbiome. It feeds the bacteria. So
I
keep
didn't
eating
know
that.
that.
It's super important. The fiber feeds the bacteria. So you got to eat that fiber. But what if that kale was coated in Roundup, right? It's a totally different story. Glyphosate, which is in Roundup, it's the active, but there are a ton of other toxins in there besides just glyphosate in Roundup. It's a probable carcinogen. It's an endocrine disruptor, so it messes with your hormones. 300 million pounds of this are sprayed on food in the US annually, and it doesn't wash off. And a very tiny amount opens the tight junctions. So remember, the tight junctions are those proteins between the cells. They open up. And that's what we study in the laboratory all the time. And it is fast, and it doesn't take a lot. So if those tight junctions open up, when you eat that kale, not only do the nutrients get in, but the fiber gets in. Your fiber is not supposed to be in the body. It's supposed to go through and feed the bacteria, and all the chemicals get in. So at that point, what happens is the immune system recognizes everything but the nutrients as invaders, and it launches an attack. It does what it's supposed to do. The problem is, and this is referenced as an immune response, and if your body is chronically in this highly inflamed state, and it just starts to attack things that it shouldn't. It starts to attack your own body, right? If it's constantly under attack, and if you're constantly opening those tight junctions, you're going to have an immune response all the time. When you begin attacking things that you shouldn't, your own body, that's an autoimmune condition, right? So that's lupus, type 1 diabetes, Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. It leads to all these chronic conditions. So you really need to protect your gut and protect the microbiome, because it protects you. So protect what protects you.
That was so fascinating to me. So I'm going to ask kind of a newbie question, just based on your experience and your knowledge in your career. Are you saying that a good amount of the autoimmune conditions and chronic inflammation are a result of chemicals that have made their way into our bodies?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Uh, without question, without question. This is one of the problems with glyphosate, right? Is one, they measure toxicity of the glyphosate, not Roundup, when they register it. And you're putting glyphosate with a bunch of other toxins, as if glyphosate is not bad enough. But the acute toxicity of glyphosate is not that high. It's not that toxic acutely to a cell, like to kill a cell. It doesn't look that bad. It's all the other damage that it does, the endocrine disruption, the opening of the tight junctions. It's like the gateway toxin. Like you talk about a gateway drug, it's like the gateway toxin. It's opening those tight junctions up so that everything goes in. They don't measure for that. That's not a test that they use at the EPA, right? So we're measuring the wrong thing when we look at the safety. We look at an acute study. And they are looking at other things now. They're starting to look at other things, but they're 20 years behind. And I think it's mainly because we didn't understand the microbiome, and we didn't understand the immune system. So tests were developed, 40 years ago, And our knowledge just has changed, and we need to revisit those tests to better
Yeah.
reflect safety of these
Yeah.
products.
So it sounds like, and this is just from my perspective, we all do it differently. Everyone does it differently. But it sounds to me like the common medical practice is exactly the opposite of what we need to be doing. That instead of giving you drugs to deal with the issues like autoimmune disease and inflammation, we should be, instead of putting stuff in, we need to be taking stuff out,
Mm,
which is the toxins.
exactly.
So it
100%.
seems like we're doing just the opposite of what is actually going to create good health.
Yeah, but it's hard because nobody makes money at that. I mean, but you're right.
Yeah.
It's getting to root cause. If you
Yeah.
protect your gut, um, and you keep those tight junctions intact, you will
Mhm.
have all of those chronic conditions. I shouldn't say all because maybe there's some that aren't. There's many, 26, 28 chronic conditions that are due to leaky gut that have been clearly established. The
Right.
term leaky gut, I think, doesn't do a service because it sounds like it's woo woo. So intestinal permeability, if you like, that
Yeah. I just hate
sounds
the words
better.
leaky gut, together. It just sounds yucky.
It sounds awful.
So tell me how this, if you haven't used this, you guys, it looks like water. It tastes like water. It's like nothing, you know. How does something that looks like water and tastes like water work?
Yeah. So, I mean, the short answer is it's a dietary supplement that helps maintain the tight junction integrity. So when you put it on the cells, the tight junctions zip right back up when you look at it under the
They,
microscope. It's
wow.
amazing.
So how does that happen?
Yeah, yeah. Um, it lets it zips up and it lets the nutrients in and keeps other things out, right? So, but that is a very limited view of ion, and it doesn't explain how. So, how ion is derived from this ancient soil. It's never been farmed, pre-agricultural. It's the dinosaurs, like 60 million years ago. So this soil is incredibly rich with a diverse carbon-based metabolites. And all that means is it's a byproduct of the bacteria and fungi when they would decompose the plants and the animals. They give off this waste product, which is a bacterial metabolite. So it's from 60 million years ago. The bacteria chew up the plants and animals, turning them into this rich humus. It's just like your compost pile, right? Of today, except the diversity of life at that time was so much greater. Um, then, we had the event meteor that gets covered with this thick layer of dust. Um, and you have, time passes, time, heat, pressure, and this ancient humus becomes what is referred to as humic substances and is trapped in this ancient ore called leonardite. So it's this strata of really rich bacterial metabolites. We take that ore, we gently pull out the fulvate portion, which is a certain molecular weight portion. It's the size that can go up a plant. It can transport nutrients. So it's one piece of that leonardite. Fulvate is unique because it can hold on to things. So it holds on to cations, positive ions, and it holds on to anions, and it can chelate and grab things and transport them. So if a cell needs more of a certain mineral like it needs magnesium, fulvate carries that and can pass that mineral to the cell. The cell knows what it needs. So your body knows what it needs to heal. Fulvate just delivers the goods. So ion carries and delivers nutrients. So you can kind of think of it that way. The other thing that fulvates do, which is really amazing, they give up electrons and they take electrons. So I think you've probably heard Zach talk about redox chemistry. This simply means that ion supports redox signaling. And that's not an easy concept, but at its heart, it's simply the passing of an electron. So something taking electron is reduced, something giving an electron is oxidized. That's redox. And why is that important? That's important because bacteria, they don't have a mouth, they can't speak, right? They don't have ears, they can't communicate that way. The way they communicate is through electrons. through the transfer of electrons. It's been clearly shown that bacteria communicate and make things happen through chemistry and redox signaling, the passing of electrons. So ion just supports that. It's there kind of as that wireless network to pass electrons along. And it allows this amazing community of microbes in our bodies to communicate and do their jobs. So ion really isn't doing anything. I think you could call it a facilitator. So it kind of supports the body in total, that human and microbial partnership to do what it's designed to do.
Fascinating to me. It is just fascinating. And it makes me think that the soil that this is derived from, this is what we need to be growing our fruits and vegetables in.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And I think it's very much, I think it's a deficiency. I think is what it comes down to. You think of the sailors on the ships that developed scurvy. They were just missing vitamin C. As soon as they gave them limes,
Yeah.
I think that we've so depleted our soil, we're not getting the folate. We're not getting the minerals and the folate. So I think we're addressing a deficiency. And I think this is pretty amped up because it's got so many bacterial metabolites, because it's like back from a time when the world was so diverse.
Yeah. When, it's easy for us as humans to feel good when we're in our 20s and 30s and early 40s. It's like we're just running on excitement of being on the planet. And then you get to your late 40s and your 50s and your 60s, and gosh, issues crop up. How can someone know that that ion might help them? Like, who's this for? If a woman is feeling like I can't lose weight, I am tired all the time, everything hurts, would she be a good candidate for ion?
Yeah. I think I was fortunate to have so many symptoms that I had to start looking at root cause. I had to shift from a mentality of having diseases that I'm treating to a lack of health, and admitting to myself that I had a lack of health. And there were too many holes in the boat to keep plugging, right? So I think I was fortunate in that regard, that I was pushed to the brink. I think in general, most people are living in this state of lack of health, and chronic conditions just creep up on you. And they slowly, all of a sudden you think it's normal to feel tired all the time. It's normal to have puffy eyes. It's normal to fall asleep when you're reading. It's normal to have excess weight that you can't get rid of. It's normal to have eczema, or it's normal to have allergies. And, even to the point that it's normal to have cancer. Like, I think it creeps up on you. And the reality is prevention is a lot easier on the body than having to heal and then maintain. So I look at it as an investment in long-term health. And we know that ion supports so much more than tight junctions. It supports upregulation of NRF2 and glutathione and lysine. And these are all critical to human health and healing. So, certainly some people need it more than others, but I think pretty much anyone can benefit.
The whole issue of the soil degeneration on the planet, which Dr. Bush talks about a lot, is really an issue for me, because I feel, when we talk about living soil and dead soil, our fruits and vegetables that we go into the grocery store and buy are grown in dead soil.
Yeah.
There's this soil that is not filled with all those good little goodies that give us nutritious fruits and vegetables. And I went on a rant. I think you might have saw it in a video where I said, I think they got to get rid of the organic labeling in the grocery store. And the organic is the regular produce, and the rest is chemical produce. Because that's what it really is the fact that they're labeling it organic, like you're some kind of granola, outlier, is such a marketing tool.
It is.
I mean, it is such a marketing tool, and I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of us being continually fed information that is not for our health.
Yeah.
It's for it's for profit. It's for corporate profit. That's my rant. But I'll have to say that when you said that cancer, that is almost like we expect it now. And I was out shopping the other day, and I saw a gal, she's probably around my age, and she was literally shuffling across the parking lot, and she was smoking a cigarette, some of us smoke, some of us don't. That's, everybody gets to make their choices. Her movement was so
Yeah.
stiff, and I could tell she was in a lot of pain. And I think that as a society, we have come to expect that as you get older, you're no longer going to feel good.
Yeah.
You're no longer going to be energetic. You're going to lose your mobility. You're going to get cancer. You're going to get this. You're going to get that. And it's almost that this is my opinion, Kimberly's opinions. I feel like we've been programmed in a way to accept ill health instead of expect good health and mobility and flexibility. And it must have been very frustrating for you, who was so very active. I mean, running marathons, you must have felt like you were doing as much as you could for your health. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not that many people that hit that level of physical activity on a regular basis.
I really thought that I was doing everything possible to be healthy, but I also had programmed in me that the cards aren't dealt evenly, so that I am bound for cancer. I just thought I was on that trajectory. And because I've lost people in my family, um, that I thought this was the path. And in fact, when I got to 50 and was having this significant relapse and no longer able to control it, I remember turning to my husband and saying, I guess this is it. I had a good ride. I think I've had 50 good years, and this is what happened. So I had totally bought into exactly what you say, that this is just normal. And
Yeah.
now, like, I can't tell you how amazing it feels to be free from that, we're not predestined to hobble along or have cancer, or, that it doesn't have to be that way. We
Yeah.
all deserve and can have good health.
And I think that that is more of the true human condition than the one that we've been sold.
Yeah.
That vital dynamic health. I see older women and men in more ancient cultures, more
Mm,
indigenous cultures. I mean, their mobility is amazing. They're working out in the fields. They're having a life. They're doing great. And we, in what is probably one of the more, you know, first world countries with the medical system that we've been bragging about for decades,
yeah.
we don't have that level of health. And I think that it's time for us to really look at that and recognize that there's a
Yeah.
difference between what we've been told and what reality is.
I 100% agree with you. And we could go on for another hour on that topic, because
Yeah.
I am with you 100%.
Yeah. So if someone takes Ion, um, I still want to call it Restore, Cindy.
I
Because,
know.
I used to start with something. I said in a video, I said they renamed it. They didn't ask me. Um, I know what I noticed. What I noticed when I first started taking it way back when is an immediate lack of puffiness. I can
Right.
say that I've always had a good stomach. I have never had any real health issues, but I was very, very puffy and heavy and just blah looking. And that was the immediate result for me. What are some of the effects that getting your gut back into a healthier condition, what could people expect to see, or what do you often see with people when they start really taking care of their microbiome?
I think many people see better bowel movements. That's the number one comment. Better, but like
Mhm.
just healthier bowel movements. That sometimes takes a while for some people, and I'll explain why. Some people will. We often get the comment that they're going to feel bloated or gassy initially, and this makes complete sense because they've activated their microbiome. Their microbiome digests food and it emits gas. Your brain hasn't caught up. The brain gut axis takes a little time. It hasn't caught up yet. So your food is moving through slowly because the brain says, we have to extract nutrients, right? As soon as it's giving more nutrients, the brain catches up and it will increase the peristaltic movement and it'll move through faster because the microbiome is doing its job. But initially, they're not in sync. So you're going to potentially feel kind of gassy and bloated because your microbiome is starting to work. So that's a good sign. You just have to kind of live with that for a week. You might experience a boost in mood because your gut is now supporting, it makes the neurotransmitters. 90% of our serotonin comes from the gut. And so those good feel chemicals, you're going to start to feel that. I think it will take several weeks just because the layers in your skin, take time to turn over, but you're likely to see improvements in your skin, less puffiness, less inflamed areas, maybe less eczema. So I think in total, it takes time and there's some initial gut things you might feel, but if you didn't have gut problems before, you might not have that, and it might take that a little bit longer to get the other benefits. And then there's some people, who say they haven't experienced anything, but they're taking it from a preventative perspective. It's the lucky ones, I think, that get an immediate cue, like you got, and then like I got.
I remember that both when I very first started and then when I fell off and got back on it, I was running to the little girl's room every 5 minutes to go tinkle. It's like I noticed that my body was
Yeah.
releasing those fluids, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah, that's a good sign. It's a good sign. It
Yeah.
seems like it's very individual.
Mhm.
And that actually makes sense because everyone is at a different point in their health and their microbiome. So your journey is going to be different depending on where your starting point is.
So based on your experience, and you're so, I could talk to you all day long. We could go on a vacation together and I'll just pick
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Based on your experience, and you clearly have had a lifetime of really getting a handle on what makes a healthy body and what creates true health. And when I talk about on this channel, makeup or skincare or this and that, what's at the bottom of it is, sure, we want to look good, but we want to feel good more. And I don't know anyone in my life, Cindy, who is truly healthy, like really healthy,
Yeah.
who doesn't look terrific.
Yeah.
And who doesn't have fabulous skin and a ton of energy, and they're in a great mood because they feel good and they're fun to be around. Basically, really what we want to do is we want to feel good, because when you feel good, everything, all your creativity and your happy emotions and everything will come from that, from when you feel good, and you're more loving and you're more patient and you're more engaged in life because you feel great.
Yeah.
And I know when I don't feel good, then the crabbiness sets in, or I don't have patience, or this and that. Based on your experience, if someone is our age, 50s, 60s, 70s, what are the 3 things that you would say are just non-negotiables for getting the type of health that we really deserve and what our body is capable of?
Yeah. I love what you just said because I do think it's beauty from the inside out. And when I was feeling so ill, it showed, right? And I could have been the not pretty over 50 example, right? Because I was ill, and it showed in my skin and my arms, and the way I carried myself. So I think that just really resonates with me, what you just said. The top recommendations that I would make would be very quickly, and then I'll just say a little bit about each one. Stop the toxins, diversify, and relax. Stop the toxins, eating clean, no spray, farmer's market, organic, as best you can. It's tough. I know the world is a toxic place, but make really good dietary choices. So you're feeding the microbiome, not yourself, to kind of think of it that way. So avoiding the processed foods, because that's just filled with stuff that you don't need. Dairy is pretty inflammatory. Avoiding meats and poultry that are treated with antibiotics, because one, it's torturous for the animals. but two, it's really not healthy for your microbiome. So stop the toxins. Just try to eat as clean as you can and as thoughtfully as you can, as often as you can. Diversify, so a really wide range of plants, garden, farm and market, fermented foods, great. But that's only one way to diversify. The microbiome, like your microbiome changes the minute you get on an airplane. The minute you change your environment, it changes dramatically. So get out in the forest, get on the beach, go out barefoot, go for a walk, get in the garden, pet your dog, your cat, like as many, diversify what you're eating and diversify your experience outside. And then relax. You look surprised.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It is. They've done some really fascinating work on just how quickly your microbiome changes just by walking into a room. So really fascinating. And then the last is to relax. And I know that's harder. That's easier said than done. But what I mean is like invoke tools to help you. So meditate, walk, hike, exercise, be with people that you love, pet your dog, pet a pet. Um, Stress is just so underrated in terms of its impact on the microbiome and your health and how well you age.
Mhm.
So I think stop the toxins, diversify, and relax. And I think, ion's one of those things that supports all of those. So I view that as something foundational, but in terms of actions that you can take, it's really, I would say those three.
Yeah, thank you. Those are brilliant. And I am surprised about the microbiome changing when you change your environment, but now that you say that, it's like, of course, nature is brilliant
Yeah.
and it's going to adjust to whatever the environment that we're in. I'm going to be thinking about that all day now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you start to go into it, you just want to learn more.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And that's one of the things that I love about Dr. Bush's interviews on YouTube is that he just has so much great information that has really created a lot of thinking in me and and has helped me realize that all of us, everyone watching, all of us deserve what we were born into, which are healthy bodies that function properly, that support our journey here on earth, that feel good late into our lives. We don't have to settle for ill health, mobility issues, this and that. We really can do a lot to change the way we feel and ultimately the way we look as well.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, Cindy, I want to thank you so much for your time. Honestly, I could talk to you for another 8 hours. I loved all that you shared. And it really is food for thought for all of us to really look at what we're eating, how we're eating it, where it came from, how it was treated before it got to us, and just be a little bit more thoughtful. And I know for me, I have changed my diet dramatically. And just other things that I do with my body, but it was one tiny step at a time. It didn't happen overnight.
Mm.
So it's nothing that, you have to change everything all at once. One small change at a time is really, the way to go. And I think it's just much more easy to incorporate it and have it be meaningful.
I would agree. And thank you,
Yeah.
Kimberly, for allowing me to spend some time with you. You're
Oh,
a treasure and a gift, and I hope we get to do it again.
Oh, I'd love to do good. I do want to let everyone know that Seraphic has very graciously offered a discount code. So if you haven't tried Ion Biome, which I still think of as Restore, there is a discount code. It'll be listed in the description box down below. It has really worked wonders for me, and I know so many of you have tried it and loved it. So I'm really thrilled about that. And I am most importantly connected to every single one of us feeling better, feeling happier, and having all of us take the journey to an earth that sustains us in a very healthful way. And we do it one step at a time. Cindy, I want to thank you so much for taking time out to share with us. And I hope that you can come back. I know there's going to be a ton of questions. And I would love to talk about different issues that we can take a look at as we get older and to help us stay healthier, stay more vibrant, and just more joyful as we age.
Oh, I would love that. I would welcome it anytime, Kimberly. This is really fun.
Okay. Oh, great. Thank you all for joining us. I hope this was fun, useful, and helpful. I loved it. If you enjoyed it as well, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I'm so happy you stopped by. I love it when you take a few minutes out of your day to spend it with me. It is such a gift to me, and I appreciate that. I'm Kimberly. This is Pretty Over 50, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.